Let them manage. A Small Business Guide to People Management, written by Robert Stell. Chapter 1. Hiring and Interviewing Skills. Your business will expand and rapidly prosper if you ensure that the people you hire are cleverer than you. Always remember that the key resource in your business is the people within it, and if you employ really good people, your business will definitely prosper. If you are hiring to replace someone who has left or is soon to be leaving, then chances are that you already know what job that person's subsequent replacement is going to be doing. Let's imagine for a second that you are hiring someone into a job that doesn't yet exist. When I say it doesn't yet exist, I mean that you are probably doing some of those tasks yourself and you want to delegate those to someone else in order that you may free up your time to do the things that you are best at. Spending time doing things you are not good at is a waste of time, and it will limit your progress. Almost certainly, there are tasks that you are less than average at. So be honest with yourself about this and delegate them as soon as possible. If you don't let go, you won't grow. The first task is to draw up a job description. The job description is a detailed list of all the tasks that this person would be expected to perform. Along with this is a brief wish list of tasks that you would like this person to carry out in the future. As an example, you, as the CEO of your own organization, are currently doing the payroll, the credit control, paying your suppliers, and at the weekends, trying to reconcile your bank account. You start on Monday morning feeling exhausted, and you have little time, enthusiasm, or energy to do the thing that you are really best at, which is naturally business development. The thing that seems to be taking all your time is credit control, and you are doubtful whether you are the right person to do this, because it often means finding the time to talk directly to your client, which can of course be awkward. So primarily you want someone to come in to take over the credit control function, but it would also be nice if they could do payroll, and wouldn't it be great if they could have experience of doing the bank reconciliation too? The probability is that if they can do the former two tasks, you can train them into doing the third. So what qualifications should this person have? They would definitely need to have credit control experience, as this task is one that requires a degree of tact, diplomacy, and patience. They may be training to be an accountant, they may just be a part-time bookkeeper, they could be a range of different kinds of people. After you have decided upon a job description, you must also then decide how much time you would require this individual for each day, week, month. The next thing you have to decide is how much you are willing to pay them and under what conditions. Are you going to provide flexible working, or are you going to require them to work fixed hours? Will you subsidize their travel into the office? Might they require a car allowance? As you will no doubt see throughout this book, I am a big fan of flexible working. Being able to offer flexible working conditions will certainly mean you are going to have a broader selection of people to choose from and subsequently a greater rate of retention. How much should you pay them? The answer to that from your point of view is as little as possible. Remember, all of this money is coming directly out of your pocket, and you are going to feel very loath to part with any of it. The problem, however, is that if you don't pay enough, you won't get the right person. This particular bullet has to be bitten. How do you find out how much is the right amount? LinkedIn is a source of this kind of information, as is Mr. Google generally, but recruitment consultants are the best source. Even though your business is small, I would still recommend using a recruiter at this point. First of all, they are the experts in remuneration for the kind of job that you are looking to fill, and they will save you an awful lot of time, if they are any good, in shortlisting people for interview. They can be expensive, and you will be charged anything between 15% and 20% of the starting salary plus VAT for the privilege of finding someone that you might have found anyway. The problem here is time. Yes, if you had enough time, you would likely find this individual yourself. You could put up the advert on LinkedIn and you could trawl through all the responses and eventually pick out a shortlist for an interview, but, as we have already established, time is a precious resource that you don't have. So how do you get started? The first task, if you are going to use a firm of recruiters, is to recruit your recruiter. Recruitment firms tend to specialize in a particular sector, e.g., accountancy, marketing, IT consultancy, etc., etc. A quick search of Google will bring up a list of recruiters in your area. You will need to meet these recruiters, and ideally, they should come to your office or place of business. There is no point in going to theirs. They have to be at your office or place of employment to understand the culture and to understand where this new employee will be situated. If they are unwilling to visit you, then they have failed at the first hurdle. Once you have met your recruiter, you'll need to be on the lookout to see if they ask all the right questions about your business. They need to be asking you lots and lots of questions about you, your business, your plans, your aspirations, etc. You are looking for someone who is bright, inquisitive, motivated, and, having asked you lots of questions, also understands your business and your requirements. I would suggest you use between 2 and 3 recruiters, but definitely no less than 2. Whilst they would prefer sole custody of resourcing for the vacancy, you must resist this. There is very little upside for you to just use one recruiter. Recruiters do not charge until a successful placement is made, so all of the work that they will be doing to resource and shortlist suitable candidates is effectively work done without charge. How do you find out how much is the right amount to pay? The best resource for finding out remuneration rates for specific roles are with the agencies that specialize in recruiting for those roles. For accountancy, the major agencies are Reed and Hayes. Ordinarily, they will provide this information free of charge, and particularly if you are meeting them to use their services. So, let's say you have decided on 2 recruiters, you have given them the job description, and they have told you what the appropriate salary is. The next stage is the bit that they are supposed to be better at than you, and that is drawing up a shortlist. I suggest you get each recruiter to draw up a shortlist of no fewer than 5 people. You will also need to see all of their CVs. You will need to specify to the recruiter the minimum level of experience that you are looking for and the minimum qualifications. If either of the recruiters sends through information of a candidate that does not meet these minimum specifications, my suggestion is that you dismiss that recruiter and get another. I know that sounds a bit harsh, but if they can't follow simple instructions, which many of them can't, you should move on. From the recruiter's shortlist of 5 candidates, you should narrow that down to 3 for a telephone or Teams or Zoom interview. This interview does not have to be very long at all. It is not a substitute for a face-to-face interview, merely a pre-qualification. If someone cannot express themselves clearly over the phone, then it is highly unlikely they will be able to express themselves clearly face-to-face. You would start the telephone interview by saying, "Hello, thank you very much for calling me. This is just a very, very quick chat of no more than a couple of minutes ahead of a potential face-to-face interview." Then you would ask an open-ended question that affords the candidate an opportunity to talk directly to you. A suggested open-ended question is, "So what interests you about this job?" After that, you must let them speak. As they are speaking, you will form some idea about their lucidity, qualifications, experience, confidence, etc., perhaps even making some brief notes to reference later. The telephone interview really is about ruling out unsuitable candidates instead of an evaluation process of their suitability. The evaluation process starts at the first interview. This is all about whittling down the shortlist. After the telephone interviews are complete, hopefully you will be left with 4 or 5 candidates that you would like to see face to face. Let's say that 2 came from one particular recruiter and 3 from the other. Once you have made your shortlist, you should act quickly in arranging their appointment, bearing in mind that they will be looking at other opportunities as well. The recruitment process should be pretty sharp at this point. My personal preference for interviews is first interview 1 week and a second interview either at the end of the same week or at the beginning of the next. There are many reasons why I like to separate them out. Firstly, it gives the candidate plenty of opportunity to think of any questions that they may have missed between the first and the second interview, and the better candidates will definitely have questions. Secondly, it gives me time to think about each candidate a bit more deeply and to think of any questions that I might like to ask them on the second interview. The second interview stage should also involve at least one other person. This could be a fellow employee, a spouse, or even an external professional. You will need someone else's point of view. Whilst that person's role does not include asking any technical questions, their opinion on the candidate's personality, fit and character will be extremely useful when it comes to making a final decision. Let's return to the first interview stage. You would hope that the candidate would arrive on time and be dressed appropriately. Appropriate dress could be anything that is suitable for the task. A very useful acronym to remember for attending the first interview is WASP, which stands for Welcome, Acquire, Supply, and Part. W is for welcoming the candidate into your office or to your premises, and it is very important to get this right. Your welcome needs to be friendly, open, and direct, thereby setting the overall tone for the rest of the meeting. It is a welcome in the same way that you would welcome a sales prospect. What I like to do at my own business is to welcome them in, get them settled in the office, and then leave them while I go downstairs and make them a drink of their choice and make one for myself. I don't rush this task because it allows the person to familiarize themselves with their surroundings and to calm down a bit. Remember, they will have made a journey to meet you. Your office could be in an area that is unfamiliar to them, so when they arrive, they will be nervous and unrelaxed. Leaving them to relax a little will make them feel more comfortable, which is, after all, what you want them to be. A is for acquire, which is one of the most important parts of the interview process. This is about you acquiring knowledge about them. Ideally, you will already have prepared a list of questions from their CV on topics such as where they grew up, what their school was like, what their favorite subjects were, their last job, what they liked about their last job, what they didn't like, their aspirations for the future, what they think they are good at, etc., etc. You want the candidate to talk about themselves. You will want to hear about their achievements, but you will also hopefully want to hear that they are confident but modest about those achievements. You may also find that this is an excellent way to identify any discrepancies between their lived experience and what was included in their CV. After all, writing certain embellishments is much easier than being able to articulate them. S is for supply. Once you have acquired all of this information about the candidate, you will be in a position to supply them with information about your company, your own aspirations, the role in the company that they are being interviewed for, what you expect from them, what further training they might get, and how they might develop within your company. Once you have done all that talking, you would probably ask, do you have any questions at this point? Those that are not interested in your company and the job will merely want to know how much they are going to get paid, how much they get for lunch hour, what the holiday entitlement is, etc. My recommendation for candidates like that is that they are not to be considered for the second interview stage. You are looking for someone who has listened to what you have said and wants a little bit more depth about certain aspects of the role or the development possibilities within the role. Perhaps they desire a little bit more information about how your business works, how it could be more successful, and how they could help in driving future growth. In other words, you are looking for someone who is already thinking themselves into the role. Once these questions have been answered, that is effectively the end of the first interview. P stands for part, as in parting. This is the last bit that the candidate will remember, so it must be positive and must leave the candidate with the impression that they are still in with a chance. You should mention that they will be contacted by the recruiter, and if they are selected for a second interview, that interview would be held by the end of the following week. This should give the potential candidate time to make the necessary arrangements so that they are available at the time you want the second interviews to be held. Thank them for their time, see them to the door, shake their hand, smile, etc. So from the 5 first interviews, you will need to remove the weaker candidates from the shortlist so that you are left with a maximum of 3 for the second interview stage. You know that these people speak well on the phone, have the right qualifications, can speak to you face to face in a confident and bright manner, are well motivated, and they are all keen to take on this role. For the second interview, you will once again welcome them in exactly the same way, comment on how good it is to see them again, find out about how their week has gone, settle them down as before, get them a drink, etc., etc. Once all of those pleasantries are out of the way, the first question you would ask of them is whether they had any questions as a result of the first interview. I think of it as a good sign if they do have immediate questions. It's highly unlikely that they would have understood and grasped everything that you had said at the first interview, and what you would hope is that they would have been thinking about the role in the week since the first interview. And those thoughts would have prompted some questions. After they have asked those questions and you have had a conversation to explain the answers, it is time to ask them any questions that you have as a result of your thought process in the week since the first interview. At this point, you will bring in your second and maybe even third interviewer. You will leave the room having briefed the second interviewer about what you want them to talk about. In my view, Unless the second interviewer is an existing employee that has the necessary technical experience to ask detailed questions, they should really be very general, open-ended questions where the candidate is given a chance to talk openly. When that stage is over, you will then wrap up with the candidate and again ask them if they have any further questions they would like to ask. At this point, I like to ask them whether they would take the role if offered. Now, you may think it would be a given fact that the candidate would still be keen to take the role, but sometimes that is actually not the case. It could be that through the second interview process, they have started to become uncertain, so they may say that they need to give it some thought or something very similar. In my view, that is a signal that they have doubts. If they are at all hesitant at this stage, my suggestion is that you rule them out. When the interview is over and you part company, you inform them that the results of the interview process will be available in a few days. A few days is the absolute maximum. I prefer to have all of the second interviews done on the same day so that you can make the decision at the end of that day. You will again need to be quick in making your decision and making contact with an offer or decline, because if these candidates are any good, they are going to be having interviews with other potential employers. At this point, you need to talk to the people that have been press-ganged by you into doing the other part of the second interview and ask their opinions. I like to wait until I have interviewed all the second interview candidates before I ask the second interviewer what their opinions are. These opinions are quite often very interesting and sometimes quite different from the opinions that I had already formed. Hopefully you and the second interviewer will agree on who the best candidate is, and at that point you need to inform the recruitment consultant so that they can break the happy news and sad news to those who have missed out as soon as possible. The agent will hopefully then have those conversations with the candidates and get back to you with feedback very quickly. In all of the cases where recruitment has gone wrong for me, there has been a delay between me imparting the news to the recruiter and the recruiter confirming the news that the candidate wants to take the job. Where there is a delay, it almost certainly indicates that the candidate is not wholly enthusiastic. This could be because they are deciding between a number of jobs, or it could mean that they have some doubt about the role that you are offering them. Either way, this delay will almost certainly lead to problems later on. I cannot offer you a definitive solution to this problem, but I can say that if the delay is significant and the second candidate was a close second, you might want to choose the second candidate in any event. I know this sounds like a bit of a bold and risky move, but I feel that someone coming into your organization who is anything less than red hot keen is not the one for you. Hopefully you will receive the happy news quickly that the candidate has accepted your offer, and in that event, you need to get an offer letter to them as soon as possible by both email or Royal Mail. The offer letter should have the following information in it. When they should start, a starting salary, hours of work, holidays per year, study days per year, if applicable.